The queen said her children trusted no one, until the human janitor made them laugh as never before. Before we dive into this story, drop a quick hi in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. It really helps support the channel. The vast crystal palace of Elysium Station hung in space like a glittering snowflake against the backdrop of stars. Within its translucent walls lived the most powerful diplomatic family in the Galactic Union, a species known for their stoic demeanor and unreadable expressions. Tyler Grant leaned on his cleaning cart and gazed out at the immense gas giant below, its swirling storms visible even from this distance. 6 months into his contract as the maintenance supervisor for the Nilarian royal family's diplomatic quarters, and he still couldn't believe his luck. Most humans never left Earth, let alone worked in the upper echelons of alien society. But here he was, responsible for keeping the Nilarian embassy spotless and functioning perfectly. Of course, there were downsides. The Nilarians were notoriously difficult to please. Their skin, with its subtle iridescence that shifted between blue and violet hues, was hypersensitive to certain chemicals. Their 4 eyes could detect microscopic imperfections invisible to humans. And their reputation for coldness wasn't exaggerated. In 6 months, not a single member of the royal family had spoken directly to Tyler. Maintenance Supervisor Grant. The station's AI chimed through his earpiece. Your presence is requested in the royal reception hall. Tyler straightened his uniform. A direct summons was unusual. On my way, he replied, checking his appearance in the reflection of a nearby panel. His dark hair was neatly combed, and his uniform was immaculate. He took pride in representing humanity in this prestigious position. When he arrived at the reception hall, the sight nearly took his breath away. Queen Lyria of the Nilarians sat on her floating crystal throne, her 4 deep blue eyes surveying the room with regal detachment. Her crown, fashioned from a material that seemed to both absorb and emit light, cast delicate patterns across the floor. At her sides stood her royal guards, their ceremonial armor gleaming. But what caught Tyler's attention were the 3 smaller figures seated in a semicircle before the throne. The royal children, rarely seen outside their private quarters. Approach, human. The queen's voice resonated through the hall, a symphony of harmonics that humans couldn't fully perceive. Tyler walked forward and bowed deeply. Your Majesty, how may I serve? Queen Lyria's face remained expressionless, but her upper eyes narrowed slightly. I have observed your work these past cycles. It has been satisfactory. Coming from a Nilarian, this was high praise. Thank you, Your Majesty. I have a matter of some delicacy to discuss, she continued. My offspring will be remaining on Elysium Station for an extended period while I attend the Galactic Summit. They require supervision. Tyler blinked in confusion. Your Majesty, I'm just a maintenance worker. Precisely. One elegant 6-fingered hand gestured dismissively. The royal tutors and attendants have political connections. The guards have military ties. The diplomatic staff answer to the assembly. But you, human, are unaligned. Politically irrelevant. Tyler wasn't sure whether to be insulted or flattered. My children trust no one, the queen continued, her voice dropping to a whisper that somehow filled the room. They have been trained from birth to suspect all motives, to guard against manipulation and harm. This is necessary for their survival as heirs to the Nilarian consortium. She leaned forward slightly. But such caution comes at a cost to their development. I wish for them to experience normalcy while I am away. You will attend to their quarters personally. Ensure their environment is maintained. Observe and report any unusual behavior. Tyler's jaw dropped. You want me to spy on your children? The queen's 4 eyes blinked in unison, a rare show of emotion, surprise. No, human. I want you to protect them. From others, and perhaps from themselves. Will you accept this duty? Tyler looked at the 3 royal children. The oldest couldn't have been more than the Nilarian equivalent of 12 Earth years. They sat perfectly still, their small faces impassive, but their lower eyes darted nervously around the room. I'll do my best, Your Majesty. The queen nodded once. You begin immediately. The head royal attendant will provide details of their schedule. You are dismissed." As Tyler bowed and turned to leave, he caught the youngest child watching him with undisguised curiosity. The tiny Nilarian quickly resumed their formal posture, but not before Tyler had seen something surprising in those 4 eyes: loneliness. The next morning, Tyler reported to the Royal Children's Quarters, armed with his cleaning cart and a new security clearance badge that felt heavy around his neck. The head royal attendant, a tall Nilarian named Vero, greeted him with obvious disdain. "The royal offspring follow a strict schedule," Vero explained, handing Tyler a tablet. "Your cleaning duties must not interfere. You will address them as Your Highness at all times. You will not speak unless spoken to. You will not touch them under any circumstances. You will report any observations directly to me." "Got it," Tyler said, scanning the schedule. Lessons, meditation, diplomatic training, ceremonial practices. These kids had no time to actually be kids. "I should warn you," Vero added, his voice dropping. "The royal children are difficult. 4 attendants have requested reassignment in the past cycle alone. They are exceptionally intelligent and will attempt to manipulate you." "They're just kids," Tyler said with a shrug. Vero's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a Nilarian expression of disbelief. "They are heirs to the most powerful diplomatic dynasty in the quadrant. Do not underestimate them." With that ominous warning, Vero led Tyler into a large chamber where the 3 royal children were seated at individual study stations. They didn't look up as Tyler entered. "Your Highnesses, this is the human maintenance worker who will be attending to your quarters," Vero announced. The oldest child, whose name Tyler had learned was Taris, spoke without looking up. "Has the human been security vetted to level 4? "Yes, Your Highness," Vero replied. "Has his genetic profile been registered with the Royal Archives?" asked the middle child, Alani. "Yes, Your Highness." "Has he signed the blood oath of silence regarding royal matters?" the youngest, Mira, inquired, finally glancing up at Tyler with her 4 curious eyes. Vero hesitated. "That won't be necessary for his level of." "Then he is not adequately cleared," Taris cut in. "Please remove him." Tyler watched this exchange with growing amazement. These weren't just precocious kids. They were miniature politicians, wielding protocol like a weapon. "I believe your mother, the Queen, specifically requested me," Tyler said carefully. All 3 children turned to stare at him, clearly surprised that he had spoken directly to them. "The human is correct," Vero admitted reluctantly. "The Queen's orders supersede standard protocol." The 3 children exchanged glances in a silent communication that Tyler couldn't interpret. Finally, Taris nodded. "Very well. The human may remain, provided he does not disturb our studies." For the next few days, Tyler went about his maintenance duties while the royal children largely ignored him. They moved through their rigorous schedule with machine-like precision, showing none of the playfulness or spontaneity that human children displayed. They spoke formally to their tutors and to each other, always maintaining perfect posture and emotional control. But Tyler noticed things. The way Mira, the youngest, would sometimes stare out the window at the stars with longing in her eyes. How Alani would secretly read forbidden adventure stories on her tablet when her tutors weren't looking. The way Taris would clench his 6-fingered hands whenever certain diplomatic officials were mentioned. On the 4th day, while polishing the crystalline floor in their study room, Tyler heard a crash and a small gasp. Mira had dropped a ceremonial tea set, and blue liquid was spreading across the pristine surface. "Don't move," Tyler said quickly, seeing the child's panic. "I've got this." Mira stood frozen as Tyler cleaned up the spill with practiced efficiency. "Your tutor doesn't need to know," he said with a wink as he disposed of the evidence. Myra's 4 eyes widened. "You are not reporting the incident?" "It was an accident," Tyler shrugged. "No harm done. But protocols require all incidents involving royal property to be logged and reported to the head attendant," Mira recited, though she looked relieved. Tyler leaned inconspiratorially. "Sometimes, Your Highness, humans don't follow every protocol." This seemed to astonish the young Nilarian. "Is that permitted?" "Not exactly," Tyler grinned. "But it's what we call cutting some slack, being a little flexible when no real harm is done. Mira seemed to be processing this revolutionary concept when her siblings entered the room. Instantly, her face returned to its practiced neutrality. "What has occurred here?" Taris demanded, his keen eyes noting the cleaning supplies in Tyler's hands. "Just routine maintenance, Your Highness," Tyler replied smoothly. Mira said nothing, but as her siblings turned away, she gave Tyler the smallest nod of gratitude. It was a tiny crack in the ice, but it was a start. Over the following weeks, Tyler found more opportunities to interact with the royal children. He fixed Alani's favorite reading tablet when it malfunctioned, without reporting that she had been using it to access human adventure novels. He rearranged the cleaning schedule to give Taris some rare privacy when the young heir seemed particularly stressed by his diplomatic training. Small gestures, but the children began to watch him with increasing curiosity. They still maintained their formal demeanor, but sometimes Mira would ask questions about Earth, or Alani would linger to observe him work, or Taris would actually acknowledge his presence with a nod. Then came the day of the diplomatic reception. The children were required to attend via holographic presence, representing their mother who was still away at the Galactic Summit. The pressure on them was immense. Tyler was busy preparing their quarters when he heard muffled sounds coming from Taris's private chamber. Concerned, he knocked gently. "Your Highness? Is everything all right?" There was no response, but the sounds continued. Tyler hesitated, then used his maintenance override to open the door. Taris was standing in the center of the room, his young face contorted in a way Tyler had never seen on a Nilarian. It took him a moment to realize the child was trying not to cry. "Hey," Tyler said softly, closing the door behind him. "What's going on?" Taris straightened immediately. "Nothing of consequence. You may leave." But Tyler could see the trembling in the child's hands. "Looks like something to me. The reception's got you worried." "Nilarian royalty does not experience worry," Taris recited, but his voice cracked slightly. Tyler nodded. "Right. And human maintenance supervisors never get scared either." He smiled gently. "Except when we do." Taris's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. "You experience fear?" "All the time," Tyler admitted, sitting down on a bench and gesturing for Taris to join him. After a moment's hesitation, the young Nilarian did. "My first day here, I was terrified. Thought I'd break something priceless or offend someone important." "But you showed no signs of distress," Taris said, puzzled. "Humans are pretty good at hiding feelings too," Tyler explained. "We just don't make it our life's mission like you folks do." This seemed to give Taris pause. "The Zephyrian ambassador will attend the reception today," he finally said. "He has a history of attempting to extract unintended concessions from inexperienced diplomats." "Ah," Tyler nodded. "So you're worried about making a mistake. A single error could impact trade negotiations affecting billions of lives," Taris said quietly. Tyler whistled. "That's a lot of pressure for a kid." "I am the first heir to the Nilarian consortium," Taris replied stiffly. "My age is irrelevant." "Maybe," Tyler said thoughtfully. "But where I come from, we have a saying, 'All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy.'" Taris's brow furrowed. "Who is Jack? And why is his dullness relevant?" Tyler laughed. "It means everyone needs balance. Even future rulers." He stood up. "Tell you what, I've got something that might help you relax before your big diplomatic performance." He returned moments later with a small object from his quarters, a simple Rubik's Cube, a classic puzzle from Earth. He handed it to Taris. The young Nilarian examined it with obvious curiosity. "What is its function?" "It's a puzzle. You twist it to get all the same colors on each side." Tyler demonstrated a few moves, scrambling the cube. Taris took it back, his 6 fingers moving experimentally. Within minutes, he was completely absorbed in the puzzle, his earlier distress forgotten as he focused on the challenge. Tyler watched, impressed by how quickly the young Nilarian's nimble fingers worked the cube. After a remarkably short time, Taris looked up with the completed cube. For the first time, Tyler saw something close to satisfaction on the child's face. "This object, it has no diplomatic value or educational purpose," Taris observed. "Nope," Tyler agreed. "It's just fun." "Fun." Taris repeated the word as if testing an unfamiliar food. I have completed your puzzle. The reception begins in 20 minutes. Keep it, Tyler said. Maybe it'll remind you that sometimes solving simple problems can help you tackle the complex ones. Taris stared at him, then carefully tucked the cube into a pocket of his formal robe. Your suggestion is noted. It wasn't exactly gratitude, but it was progress. The diplomatic reception went smoothly. From what Tyler could observe on the station's public feeds, all three children performed flawlessly, demonstrating poise beyond their years. When they returned to their quarters, there was a subtle change in the atmosphere. The rigid formality had eased, just slightly. That night, as Tyler finished his maintenance rounds, he heard unusual sounds from the children's common room, sounds he'd never heard in the royal quarters before. Hushed voices, then something that almost sounded like laughter. He approached quietly and peered through the partially open door. The three royal children were huddled together around something. Mira made a delighted sound as Taris demonstrated a series of quick moves with the Rubik's Cube. The algorithm is quite elegant, Taris was explaining to his siblings. Observe how each rotation preserves certain elements while rearranging others. Alani took the cube, her small fingers copying her brother's movements. When a side came together in matching color, she let out a musical sound that Tyler realized was the Nilarian equivalent of a giggle. The human said it has no purpose, Taris told them. It is merely fun. What is fun? Mira asked. I believe it is a human concept related to purposeless activity that nonetheless produces positive neurological responses, Taris explained seriously. Tyler couldn't help himself. He laughed out loud. Three sets of four eyes immediately turned to the doorway. Sorry, Tyler said, stepping into view. I didn't mean to interrupt. The children quickly composed themselves, but not as completely as they would have weeks ago. Something had changed. We were merely examining the terrestrial artifact you provided, Taris said formally. So I see, Tyler smiled. You know, on Earth, we have lots of games and puzzles. Things just for fun. Is this common? Alani asked, her curiosity overcoming protocol. Do humans regularly engage in purposeless activities? All the time, Tyler assured her. In fact, I could show you some other games, if you're interested. Educational ones, of course, he added hastily, knowing how the royal tutors might react. The children exchanged glances, that silent communication again. Finally, Taris spoke. That would be acceptable, for cultural research purposes. And so began what Tyler secretly called Operation Fun, his mission to introduce the royal children to the concept of play. He started small, with logic puzzles that their tutors might approve of. But gradually, he introduced games that were purely recreational, a modified version of chess, simple card games, even a carefully supervised water balloon toss in the environmental control room, which had excellent cleanup facilities. Each new activity was initially met with suspicion, then curiosity, and finally, miraculously, enjoyment. The children remained composed and formal during their official duties, but in the private moments with Tyler, they began to relax, to laugh, to play. There were setbacks, of course. When the head attendant Vero discovered them playing a card game, he was horrified and threatened to report Tyler for corrupting royal minds with trivial human pastimes. But to everyone's surprise, Taris intervened. These activities are part of our cultural education, the young heir declared with perfect diplomatic composure. The Queen specified that our development should continue in all areas during her absence. Understanding human recreational customs may prove diplomatically advantageous. Vero couldn't argue with that logic, especially coming from the first heir. What none of them realized was that their activities were being monitored. One evening, Tyler received a private communication from Queen Lyria herself. Maintenance Supervisor Grant. Her recorded message began. Reports of your interactions with my offspring have reached me at the summit. I observed changes in their behavior patterns during our communications. Explain. Tyler recorded his response carefully, aware that his job, and possibly much more, hung in the balance. Your Majesty, I've been teaching your children about human recreational activities. It started as a way to help them relax before diplomatic functions, but it's become something more. They're learning to balance duty with enjoyment, formality with authentic connection. I believe it's making them not just better diplomats, but happier individuals. If I've overstepped, I accept full responsibility. The Queen's response came the next day. Continue. That single word was all the encouragement Tyler needed. The real breakthrough came 2 months into the Queen's absence. Tyler had been teaching the children about Earth holidays, explaining the concept of birthdays. The idea of celebrating the anniversary of one's birth was foreign to Nilarians, who marked developmental stages rather than calendar dates. So humans receive gifts simply for completing another orbital cycle? Mira asked, fascinated. Pretty much, Tyler confirmed. It's a way of saying we're glad you exist. The 3 children contemplated this novel concept. Then Alani spoke up. When is your birthday, Maintenance Supervisor Grant? Tyler, he corrected gently. After months of interaction, he was still trying to get them to use his name. And it's actually tomorrow, funnily enough. The next day, Tyler arrived at the royal quarters to find the children waiting for him with uncharacteristic anticipation. Please enter and close your eyes, Tari's instructed formally. Bemused, Tyler complied. He heard shuffling, whispers, then Myra's voice. You may open them now. The common room had been transformed. Crystal formations had been arranged to catch the light in dazzling patterns. A small table held what appeared to be a cake, though made from alien ingredients, with a glowing crystal in place of a candle. Happy birthday completion, the 3 children announced in careful unison, clearly having rehearsed. Tyler was speechless. These reserved, formal alien royals had thrown him a birthday party. We researched human birthday customs, Alani explained, showing him a tablet with pages of notes. Though we had to adapt some elements to available resources. The cake's substance contains no toxic to humans compounds, Tari's assured him. We verified this with the station's xenobiological database. And we have presents. Mira added with undisguised excitement. The most emotional Tyler had ever seen any of them. The presents were touching in their thoughtfulness. A maintenance tool modified for better efficiency, a crystal that changed color to match Earth's weather patterns, and a small data crystal containing rare Nilarian poetry translated into English. But the real gift came when Tari's formally presented Tyler with a document. We have submitted a petition to officially redesignate you from Maintenance Supervisor to Cultural Liaison and Recreation Instructor. It has been approved by the Royal Administrative Council. Tyler blinked back tears. I don't know what to say. According to our research, the customary response is, thank you, Alani provided helpfully. Tyler laughed. Thank you. This is the best birthday I've ever had. Then something unprecedented happened. Mira, the youngest, stepped forward and actually hugged him. It was brief and awkward, but it broke every protocol about royal physical contact. Tari's and Alani looked shocked, but then something remarkable spread across their faces, genuine smiles. And for the first time since he'd met them, the royal children of the most powerful diplomatic family in the galaxy laughed openly, freely, with complete abandon. The sound was like music, a harmonious chiming that seemed to fill the room with light. In that moment, Tyler knew he had accomplished something far more important than maintaining pristine quarters or even protecting potential heirs. He had helped these children discover joy. Little did he know that this moment of connection would soon be tested in ways none of them could anticipate, as forces both within and beyond the station were taking notice of the changing royal heirs. Forces that viewed such changes as dangerous. 2 weeks after the birthday celebration, Tyler noticed something troubling. Vero, the head royal attendant, had begun monitoring the children more closely, often appearing unexpectedly during their recreational time. The attendant's 4 eyes would narrow with disapproval at the sight of the young royals engaged in what he clearly considered undignified human activities. Cultural education proceeds according to schedule. Tari's would state formally whenever Vero appeared, the 3 children immediately resuming their practiced royal composure. But Tyler sensed something was wrong. Vero was reporting to someone, and that someone wasn't happy about the changes in the royal children. His suspicions were confirmed when Ambassador Zothar arrived for an unscheduled inspection of the royal quarters. The tall Nilarian diplomat moved through the rooms with cold efficiency, his 4 eyes missing nothing. The queen's offspring appear to have adopted certain human behaviors, Zothar observed, his tone making the word human sound like a disease. This is most concerning. The queen approved their cultural education program, Tyler pointed out, trying to keep his voice respectful. Zothar's upper eyes fixed on Tyler while his lower ones continued scanning the room. The queen is preoccupied with matters of galactic importance. She may not fully appreciate how these terrestrial influences could undermine generations of diplomatic training. Tyler felt a chill. With all due respect, Ambassador, I'm following the queen's direct orders. Indeed. Zothar's lips barely moved. Orders which may soon be reconsidered. The Nilarian diplomatic corps has standards to maintain. We cannot have our future representatives behaving like humans. After the ambassador left, Tyler sought out the children, finding them in their study room. Their formal demeanor had returned, but Tyler had learned to read the subtle signs of their emotions. Tari's too rigid posture, Alani's flickering lower eyes, Myra's slightly vibrating antennae. Ambassador Zothar doesn't approve of our games, Tyler said bluntly. Ambassador Zothar represents the traditional faction, Tari's replied, his voice carefully controlled. They believe Nilarian diplomatic superiority stems from our emotional discipline and cultural purity. And what do you believe? Tyler asked quietly. The 3 children exchanged glances. Finally, Alani spoke. We have observed that human emotional expressiveness can sometimes facilitate connections that formal protocol cannot. Yeah, Tyler smiled. Feelings can be pretty useful sometimes. But they can also be exploited, Tari's added, his young voice suddenly serious. Ambassador Zothar and his faction fear that if we learn to express emotions like humans, we will become vulnerable to manipulation. Tyler considered this. Is there a reason they're so worried about that? Mira, always the most direct of the 3, answered. The Galactic Summit is negotiating a new security alliance. The traditional faction fears that if Nilarians show any weakness, other species will gain advantage in the treaty terms. So this isn't just about you playing games, Tyler realized. This is high-level politics. We are always high-level politics, Tari said with unexpected bitterness. We are not permitted to be children. The rawness of the statement hung in the air. It was the most honest thing Tyler had ever heard any of them say. Before he could respond, the station's AI chimed through the comm system. Priority message from the Galactic Summit for the royal heirs. The large view screen in the study activated to show Queen Lyria. Even through the holographic projection, her regal presence was commanding. The children immediately stood at attention. My offspring, the queen began, her harmonics conveying subtle tones that Tyler couldn't interpret. I have received concerning reports about your activities during my absence. Tyler stepped back, out of the camera's range, his heart sinking. Is it true, the queen continued, that you have been engaging in human recreational practices? That you have departed from the prescribed developmental curriculum? Tari stepped forward. Mother, we can explain. I require a direct answer, the queen interrupted. The 3 children stood silent for a moment. Then, to Tyler's surprise, Mira spoke up. Yes, mother. We have been learning human games and customs. The human Tyler has been teaching us. The queen's 4 eyes blinked slowly. I see. And has this human instruction interfered with your diplomatic studies? No, mother, Alani answered. In fact, we have found that brief periods of recreation improve our focus during formal training. Interesting. The queen's expression remained unreadable. Show me one of these human activities. The children looked at each other in surprise. Tyler quickly stepped forward, bringing a deck of cards from his pocket. Over the queen's impassive observation, he taught the children a simple game of concentration, where cards were placed face down and players had to remember their positions to make matches. What happened next astonished Tyler. As the game progressed, the children became increasingly engaged, their natural competitive instincts emerging. When Alani successfully matched a difficult pair, she actually clapped her hands in delight. Mira giggled when Taris made a mistake, and Taris himself, usually so reserved, pumped his fist in victory when he took the lead. Throughout it all, the queen watched silently. When the game ended with Taris's victory, the children suddenly remembered their mother's presence and quickly resumed their formal postures. "This behavior," the queen finally said, "is most irregular." Tyler stepped forward. "Your Majesty, if I may." "You may not," she cut him off. "This matter concerns Nilarian royal development." The children stood perfectly still, awaiting judgment. However, the queen continued, "I note certain unexpected benefits. Your strategic thinking appears sharper, Taris. Your pattern recognition has improved, Alani. And Mira, your emotional regulation actually shows more nuance, not less. Most curious." The queen's upper eyes narrowed. "The Galactic Summit enters its final phase. I will return to Elysium Station in 14 days. Until then, you may continue this experimental curriculum. We will evaluate its diplomatic utility upon my return." With that, the transmission ended. The children remained frozen in place until Taris finally spoke. She did not forbid it. "That's practically a ringing endorsement coming from your mom," Tyler grinned. For the first time, none of the children corrected his informal reference to the queen. Instead, they looked at each other with something Tyler had never seen on their faces before: hope. The next 2 weeks were the most enjoyable of Tyler's time on Elysium Station. With the implicit permission of the queen, the children embraced their recreational education with newfound enthusiasm. Tyler introduced them to more complex games, earth music, and even simple sports adapted for the station's gravity. But not everyone was pleased with these developments. Ambassador Zothar and Vero were frequently seen in hushed conversation, their disapproving glances following Tyler wherever he went. Other members of the Nilarian diplomatic corps began to visit the royal quarters more frequently, ostensibly to check on the children's progress. "They're worried," Tyler observed Ataris one day as they set up a chessboard. "The traditional faction, I mean." Taris nodded, his 6 fingers arranging the pieces with precision. "They believe we are becoming contaminated by human influence." "Is that what you think?" The young heir considered the question seriously. "I believe we are becoming expanded. We are not less Nilarian. We are more complete beings." Tyler smiled. "That's a pretty wise observation for someone your age." "I am the first heir," Taris reminded him, but without his former stiffness. "Wisdom is required." Their game was interrupted by an urgent station-wide announcement. "Attention, all personnel. Security breach detected in Sector 7. Emergency protocols activated." Tyler frowned. Sector 7 housed the station's communications array. "Stay here," he told the children. "I'm going to find out what's happening." But before he could leave, the door to the royal quarters slid open. Ambassador Zothar entered, flanked by 4 security officers. His face was even more expressionless than usual, a sign of extreme emotion in Nilarians. "What's going on?" Tyler demanded. "A most unfortunate situation," Zothar said coldly. "It appears that classified diplomatic communications have been intercepted. The security breach has been traced to these quarters." Tyler stared in disbelief. "That's impossible." "Nevertheless, evidence suggests otherwise." Zothar turned to the royal children. "For your protection, you will be relocated to secure quarters until this matter is resolved." Taris stepped forward, every inch the royal heir. "By whose authority do you issue such orders, Ambassador?" "The Royal Security Council has granted me emergency authority in the Queen's absence," Zothar replied smoothly. "I act in the best interests of the Nilarian Consortium." "And the human?" Alani asked, her lower eyes darting nervously to Tyler. "Will be detained pending investigation." Zothar's upper eyes narrowed. "There is evidence suggesting human involvement in the breach." "That's ridiculous," Tyler protested. "I don't have access to diplomatic communications." "Your security clearance was recently upgraded," Zothar reminded him, "at the request of the royal offspring." Tyler suddenly understood. This was a setup, a way to remove him from the children and discredit the changes he had brought about. The traditional faction was making its move. "You can't separate us," Mira said, her small voice surprisingly firm. "The Queen assigned Tyler as our cultural liaison, a designation that will be reviewed," Zothar said dismissively. "For now, your safety is paramount. Come." The security officers moved forward, but to Tyler's surprise, the three children moved to stand beside him. "We refuse," Taris declared formally. "Until we communicate directly with our mother, we will remain with our designated attendant." Zothar's face darkened. This defiance proves the humans' corrupting influence. "Officers, remove the royal offspring to secure quarters. Detain the human." The security officers hesitated, clearly uncomfortable with the idea of forcing the royal children to do anything. In that moment of uncertainty, the station AI chimed again. "Priority transmission from the Galactic Summit. The Queen requests immediate communication." Zothar froze. This clearly wasn't part of his plan. The view screen activated without anyone's command, and Queen Lyria appeared. Her expression was thunderous, her eyes blazing with an intensity that made even Zothar step back. "What occurs in my offspring's quarters?" she demanded. Zothar quickly bowed. "Your Majesty, a security situation required." "I am fully aware of the security situation, Ambassador," the Queen interrupted. "Just as I am aware that no breach originated from the royal quarters. The transmission logs have been verified by Summit Security." Tyler felt a wave of relief, but remained silent as the Queen continued. "It seems, Ambassador, that someone has made serious accusations without proper evidence. This reflects poorly on Nilarian diplomatic precision." Zothar's composure slipped momentarily. "Your Majesty, we had concerns about the humans' influence." "Yes," the Queen cut in. "Your faction's concerns have been extensively documented. Your reports question my judgment in allowing experimental educational approaches." The ambassador paled slightly. "I assure you, Your Majesty, you will return to your diplomatic offices immediately," the Queen commanded. "The Royal Security Council will review your emergency authority. Officers, you are dismissed." The security team departed quickly, leaving a shaken Zothar facing the Queen's displeasure. "Ambassador," the Queen said, her voice deceptively calm, "before you depart, observe my offspring." All eyes turned to the three royal children, who still stood protectively near Tyler. "Note their unity of purpose," the Queen continued. "Their clear decision-making under pressure. Their loyalty to one deemed worthy of trust. Are these not valuable diplomatic traits?" Zothar had no response. "You may leave," the Queen dismissed him. After he had gone, she addressed her children directly. "You showed courage and judgment. This pleases me." The children straightened with pride at this rare praise. "And you, human," the Queen turned her gaze to Tyler. "You have fulfilled your assignment beyond expectation. My offspring have indeed learned to trust, but selectively, with discernment. This is not weakness, as the traditional faction fears. It is strength." Tyler bowed his head. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I return tomorrow," the Queen informed them. "We will discuss the future of this educational experiment then." The transmission ended. That night, Tyler found the children in their common room, engaged in an intense discussion. They fell silent when he entered. "Everything okay?" he asked. The three exchanged glances before Taris spoke. "We have been considering the day's events. Ambassador Zothar sought to remove you because he feared the changes in us." "Change can be scary," Tyler acknowledged, "especially for people used to doing things a certain way. But change is also inevitable," Ilani observed thoughtfully. "Even for Nilarians." Mira looked up at Tyler with all four eyes wide. "Will you continue as our cultural liaison after Mother returns?" Tyler smiled gently. "That's up to your mother. And to you. We will request your continued assignment," Taris stated firmly. "It is the logical diplomatic solution." Tyler laughed. "Is it now?" "Yes," Taris insisted. "You have provided valuable cultural insight that enhances our diplomatic capabilities. And you teach us fun games," Mira added. "And you make us laugh," Ilani said quietly. Tyler felt a lump in his throat. "Well, When you put it that way, how could I refuse? The next day, Queen Lyria's royal vessel docked at Elysium Station. The children prepared to receive their mother with traditional Nylarian formality, dressed in their ceremonial robes. Tyler stood back, uncertain of his place in this formal family reunion. The Queen entered the royal quarters with her entourage of attendants and guards. The children bowed deeply in perfect unison. For several long moments, the Queen simply observed them, her 4 eyes taking in every detail of their appearance. Then she dismissed her entourage with a wave of her hand. When the doors closed, leaving only the Queen, her children, and Tyler, something remarkable happened. Queen Lyria knelt down and opened her arms. The 3 children hesitated only briefly before rushing forward into their mother's embrace, a display of physical affection Tyler had never imagined possible from the stoic Nylarians. "My offspring," the Queen said softly. "You have grown in my absence." "Mother," Tari said formally, though he remained in her embrace. "We have maintained our studies and diplomatic training. We have also engaged in human recreational activities which we believe have enhanced our development." The Queen's eyes shifted to Tyler. "So I have observed. Approach, human." Tyler stepped forward and bowed. "Your Majesty, you have altered my offspring," she stated. "I've tried to help them find balance," Tyler replied carefully. The Queen's head tilted slightly. "You misunderstand. It was not an accusation." One elegant hand gestured to her children. "Throughout the summit, I received reports of their activities. I observed their communications, their decisions, their interactions. They have developed authentic connections." "Is that good?" Tyler asked cautiously. "It is unexpected," the Queen answered. The traditional faction believes that emotional discipline is the foundation of Nylarian diplomatic power. For generations, we have trained our offspring to suppress all genuine feeling, to calculate every interaction for maximum advantage. She looked at her children with an expression Tyler couldn't interpret. Yet during a critical negotiation at the summit, I found myself employing a strategy one had never considered before. Rather than concealing my actual position, I revealed it, selectively, to a trusted counterpart. The resulting alliance was stronger than any achieved through traditional methods. Tyler smiled. "Sometimes honesty works better than perfect composure." "Indeed." The Queen rose gracefully. "I have made a decision regarding your position, Maintenance Supervisor Grant." Tyler held his breath. "You will continue as cultural liaison to the royal offspring. Additionally, you will expand your educational program to include selected young diplomats from the progressive faction. The experiment will continue under my direct observation." Tyler couldn't believe what he was hearing. "You want me to teach other Nylarian kids how to have fun? I want you to teach our future diplomats how to connect authentically while maintaining our cultural strengths," the Queen corrected him. "Balance, as you put it." The children were visibly trying to contain their excitement at this news. Mira was practically vibrating with suppressed joy. "There is one more matter to address," the Queen continued. "During my absence, I understand you introduced my offspring to the human custom of birthdays." "Yes, Your Majesty," Tyler admitted, wondering if this had been a step too far. "The concept of celebrating one's existence is foreign to Nylarian tradition," the Queen stated. "However, I find it intriguing." She produced a small crystal cube from her robes and handed it to Tyler. "I believe the traditional phrase is thank you for helping my children learn to trust and to laugh." Tyler accepted the gift with surprise. Inside the crystal, he could see a miniature holographic recreation of that first moment when the royal children had laughed together during his birthday celebration. "How did you?" "The quarters are monitored," the Queen said simply. That moment, it was significant. Tyler looked at the 3 royal children, who were watching him with undisguised affection in all 12 of their eyes. "Yes," he agreed. It was. 6 months later, Elysium Station hosted the first ever Nylarian Human Cultural Exchange Conference. Diplomats from both species watched in amazement as the royal children of the Nylarian Consortium demonstrated games from Earth alongside human children who were learning Nylarian ceremonial arts. Ambassador Zothar and the traditional faction had protested, of course, but they were increasingly in the minority. The success of the Queen's new diplomatic approaches at the Galactic Summit had strengthened the progressive faction's position. More and more young Nilarians were joining Tyler's cultural program, learning to balance their species' natural reserve with strategic emotional expression. As Tyler watched Taris patiently teaching a human child the intricacies of Nilarian crystal arrangement while laughing at the child's jokes, he felt a presence beside him. "Your educational experiment exceeds expectations," Queen Lyria observed. "They're just kids getting to be kids," Tyler shrugged, with some diplomacy thrown in. "You underestimate what you have accomplished," the Queen said. "For generations, my species has believed that trust was a weakness, that emotional distance was strength. We raised our offspring to suspect all motives, to guard against connection." She gestured to where Mira was now leading a group of human and Nilarian children in an improvised dance. "But look at them now. They trust selectively. They connect authentically. They express joy freely. And they are stronger diplomats for it." Tyler smiled as he watched the royal children, his students, his friends, moving confidently between both worlds. They just needed permission to laugh. "Indeed," the Queen agreed. "And sometimes, wisdom comes from unexpected sources." She turned her 4 eyes fully to Tyler. "A human janitor, for instance." Tyler grinned. "Cultural liaison, Your Majesty. It says so on my badge." For the first time, he heard the Queen of the Nilarians make a sound he never expected, a small, musical laugh. Across the room, the royal children heard it too. Their faces lit up with delight as they rushed to their mother's side, eager to share in this unprecedented moment of joy. Tyler stood back and watched as the formidable Queen Lyria and her once solemn children laughed together, surrounded by the future diplomats of two species learning that trust and joy could be sources of strength, not weakness. In that moment, Tyler knew that his simple human games had done more for interspecies relations than 1,000 formal treaties. Sometimes, the most powerful diplomatic tool was simply learning how to laugh together. As he joined the royal family in their celebration, Tyler reflected that perhaps this was humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy. Not our technology or our resources, but our understanding that connection, trust, and joy were not weaknesses to be guarded against, but strengths to be shared. And that was the end of the story. If you listened all the way to here, don't forget to leave feedback about what you thought of the story in the comments, whether positive or negative. Your feedback helps us improve. Also, leave your like and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. And I'll leave here on the screen another video that I'm sure you'll like. Big hug, and see you in the next story.